I am an unstoppable Terminator.
Well, what if you learned Skill Swap?
Oh, I could do that.
Alright then, now use Skill Swap.
Oh, I can't do that.
Sorry, what?
Ladies, gentlemen, and trainers of all ages,
Pokemon as a series is full of crazy little details or unusual mechanics that aren't exactly obvious at first glance. For games that are so simple on the surface, they tend to have an insane amount of depth for those willing to dive in with their whole selves, looking for every tiny little thing that they can find. With that said, today is a continuation of a series we like to call Things You Didn't Know in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which aims to share lesser known things with the community as a whole, whether they be tips, tricks, or just interesting details about this game that we all love, so we can both understand it better and have a better time on our journey throughout the game itself. With that said, let's get started with something you'd never find out unless you tried a unique combination yourself. Terastallizing is a really odd yet interesting mechanic. It replaces the type of your Pokemon defensively speaking, while adding a type offensively speaking, or if you already are the type that you Tera into, it gives you a second stab bonus on the same typing, which is interesting all in itself. But what if I told you that terastallizing actually has some interesting and hidden effects the game never tells you about? Specifically, it boosts the power of certain moves to make them significantly stronger, which is incredibly cool. Thanks to this tweet by Eve Pow, we know the specifics at play here, which is that if a move matches your Tera type but is lower than 60 power, excluding bonuses from Technician the ability, if it doesn't hit multiple times and it isn't a priority attack, it will actually have its base power increased to 60. This may sound unusual, but this is actually a number of important and viable functional uses in actual combat. The four that are most notably meta attacks that this boost significantly are Acid Spray, which normally is a 40 power move with 100% accuracy that guaranteed lowers your target's special defense by 2 stages. If you terastallize Poison and then use this move, it changes the move to have 60 base power before even applying the stab bonuses, making it significantly stronger than it would otherwise be while still having the lowering of special defense that it has. Even more notable is a move like Nuzzle, for example, which is a 20 power move normally with 100 accuracy that guaranteed applies paralysis to the target. Again, this move actually becomes ridiculously stronger if you use it with Electric Tera type active, boosting up to 60 power before applying your stab bonuses. This also affects Astonished and Salt Cure, which are both extremely good moves, and this weird interaction actually makes all of these moves that were already quite good even stronger if you are matching your Tera type to the move type. The fact that a mechanic like this is just hidden in the background of the game is honestly incredible, considering how much of a difference it actually makes when it's used correctly. Second up today then, let's talk about resetting raids and mass outbreaks. Every once in a while, players find a new way to do these resets in quicker or better or just more efficient ways in general. And today is, of course, another one of those days. For the most part, when people try to reset, they go to date and time in the settings, as you would expect, and then they either go a full day forward or move the time 1 minute backwards. These are the previous most effective ways of doing this, but what if I told you you could do a reset without moving the time at all? Not only is this the fastest way to do a reset on mass outbreaks and raids, but it is also one that least messes with your actual time and day on your Switch itself. Nothing is perfect, it'll still change it a little bit after enough resets, but it changes it the least, because what we're going to do here, simply go to the date and time section in the settings, then click OK, then go back into the game, and you'll find that things have reset. The reason for this is quite simply that when you set your Switch to say 9 PM, it returned it to the start of 9 PM, by which I mean it resets the seconds of the minute that it is to 0, which makes the Pokemon game think that you've gone back in time, and thus it triggers a reset. So as it turns out, after all these various methods that people have done for ages to reset their daily pop-ups in the game, all you actually have to do is go to the date and time menu and then click OK. Nothing more, it's actually that easy. Then we have a sort of silly one that was found by user Decryptic on Reddit about the Paradox Pokemon Iron Valiant. This Pokemon has gotten a lot of love as many people's favorite Paradox Pokemon, and well, it's quite fair in my opinion. This Pokemon is extremely cool. But did you know that this Pokemon has access to a move that is straight up useless for it? The move in question here is called Skill Swap. This move, generally speaking, has the effect of swapping the ability of the user and the target. This can be used in plenty of effective ways to create interesting combat situations, but, well, for Iron Valiant, it just fails. Every time, consistently, it fails. Why, you ask? Well, every Iron Valiant that exists gets the ability Quark Drive, which gives it a boost to its largest stat when standing in electric terrain. But Quark Drive happens to be one of the few abilities that can either be given to or taken by another Pokemon. And so if you use Skill Swap against the Paradox Paradox Pokemon, it will fail, but this also works the other way, and if you use this move as a Paradox Pokemon, as Iron Valiant, it will also fail. So for whatever reason, Game Freak just saw it to be a reasonable choice to let Iron Valiant learn Skill Swap, only to be an absolute failure at using it, and that is just sort of hilarious to me. Then we have some tips for many trainers' favorite pastime, hunting shinies. This is a fun activity within the Pokemon games where you go out of your way to try and find a rare encounter with a Pokemon that has unique colors compared to its normal form. For some Pokemon, this difference can actually be quite staggering. For others, though, it is somewhat minimal, but regardless, there is always a little participation trophy for you to give to yourself if you know that you have a Pokemon that you particularly like in its shiny form. And so today, we of course have a couple more shiny tips for you all, you shiny hunters out there. These two are both by way of a Japanese YouTuber that goes by Sukaru. I just want to share them with you all and get them out there in the community because one, they're quite helpful, and two, quite simply, not all of us actually speak Japanese. For the first one then, this is a specific spot on the map that can create an isolated encounter with 8 different Pokemon, as well as a couple more nearly isolated encounters. For this, you want to head to Sokarot Trail, specifically up on the hill in the middle, just to the west of the center. Once here, perch up on this higher elevated area where I'm standing and stick down a picnic. From here, your sandwich will decide the Pokemon that spawns in front of you. If you eat for ground-type shiny and encounter, you will find exclusively Toedscool and Toedscruel. If you eat for fighting-type shiny and encounter, you'll get exclusively Heracross. If you eat for thunder, you'll find nothing but Raichu. If you eat for poison, you'll get Amoonguss and Fungoose spawning in packs. If you eat for flying, you'll get Murkrow and Honchkrow spawning in packs. If you eat for rock-type, you'll find only Sudowoodo. If you eat for ghost, you'll find only Bramblin. If you eat for steel, you'll get exclusively Forretress popping up. And then if you eat for normal, you'll get packs of Sawsbuck and Deerling. But you also have to get the occasional Slacking popping up, so it isn't necessarily perfect for that type. Also for dark-type sandwich, you'll get packs of Maschiff, but this also can spawn in the Murkrow and Honchkrow, so again, it's not quite perfect for those two. That said, that is still 8 full-on isolated encounter shiny farms in one singular location, as well as a way to farm those other ones reasonably well too. So it's a really cool spot, definitely worth sharing and talking about. Then secondarily for our shiny tips is another location for specific Pokemon hunting, and this time it's in North Province Area 1, just slightly north of the North Province Area 2 Poke Center, actually. From there, just climb up this cliffside and perch yourself on the northeastern side of the grassy area at the top, sit down a picnic, and eat a fire shiny and encounter sandwich. When you do so, you'll spawn in 2 Pokemon exclusively in front of you, being Scovillain and Flareon. As of right now, this is the most effective way to hunt the shiny for Scovillain, as generally speaking, for every 15 Pokemon spawns here, you'll only get about 3 Flareon on average. So it is mostly a Scovillain isolated encounter, just with a few Flareon mixed in here and there. That said, because this is mixed, you can actually get 2 shinies in one sandwich use if you're lucky, as you can get both the shiny for Scovillain and Flareon from this spot with the one sandwich. Then finally for today, we have an interesting ability interaction in Tera Raid, specifically for King Gambit. This Pokemon can have the ability Supreme Overlord when you catch it. This ability states that when the Pokemon enters the battle, its attack and special attack are boosted by 10% for every one of its allies that have been defeated beforehand. For Tera Raids, you may wonder if this actually does anything, and well, the answer is yes, but in a pretty weird way. Specifically, the wording of this ability states that it takes effect when the Pokemon enters the battle. As a result, if you are in a raid and your King Gambit is surviving the whole time, nothing will happen, even if other Pokemon are fainting actively. That said, if other Pokemon in your raid faint, and then afterwards the King Gambit faints, when it comes back into the fight, Supreme Overlord will activate to give it the bonuses from all faints that happened beforehand. It is a really weird interaction, and honestly, it isn't worth building around or trying to force in any way, as the fact that you have to faint after other people have fainted for it to activate doesn't really help you at all in the long run of actually winning a Tera Raid, but it is pretty cool to know that this ability does technically work in raids, and it works in a pretty interesting way too. That's it for today then, everyone. Another group of tips, tricks, and interesting little details that you probably didn't know about in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I hope you enjoyed this journey, and I hope at least a couple of these will help you out in your greater adventure within the Paldea region. As always, if you know any more lesser known things about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, feel free to leave them down in the comments, and we'll scream it out loud to the community at large for you, while giving you credit for it too. Like if you like the video, subscribe with the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.